Welcome to Tying Telco Together. It's a program where we dive into the successful transformational stories from service providers all around the world. This week, I'm talking to Toru Maruta, VP, Head of Product Management for KDDI's Solution Business, and our own VMware's Sanjay Uppal, SVP and GM for the Service Provider and Edge Business Unit. We're going to be discussing the transformation from core to edge and what it takes to deliver 5G cloud services at scale. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephen, and very nice to chat with you today, Toru-san.
Thank you, Stephen and Sanjay. Nice talking to you.
Thank you both. It's great to have you on. So let's get started. The discussions in the industry today often focus on what's happening at the 5G radio. But there are very exciting advancements there, no doubt. But over here at VMware, we have a long-standing belief that no 5G deployment is going to be successful without a holistic transformation which starts at the core. Now, Toru-san, one of the most exciting things about transforming and supporting advanced 5G services is the agility to operate much, much differently. On-demand and customizable services, things like intent-driven automation, self-healing networks, and just to name a few, are all exciting things. To reach these kind of objectives, KDDI is seeking to build out a portable platform with flexibility from the core to the edge in order to operate more efficiently while delivering new digital experiences to your subscribers. So what are the key factors in building such a platform without compromising security or performance?
Thank you, Stephen. Well, let me start talking about our own cloud. So we started developing our own cloud, and before that, we were developing our services on each server independently. So instead of doing that, we developed the cloud and started sharing that cloud so that we can develop on the same resource. And so in that way, we can develop new features, including automation. And so we started doing that. And once we start doing it, the speed of development, the velocity of development becomes important. So we started doing agile development. We started from a few people, and then now it's a whole agile development center now. And so to do that, we worked with Scrum Inc. in US Boston. And so they helped us a lot to make this whole workforce. And so why I'm talking about this is now we developed our own capability. We know that the customers want to do that as well. So we started sharing that cloud capability to customers. So we did the multi-tenancy internally. We are providing that to customers now. So we already have security built in. That's why we can be sure that this service will be secure and stable and that we can provide it to customers. So our concept is try it by ourselves, see how it works, and then provide it as a service. And same goes to agile development. Now we establish Scrum Inc. in Japan, and we are giving lessons about agile development to customers as well. So that's how it works for us.
Fantastic transformational story. It's really, truly a great thing to be able to operationalize agile principles and how you operate and how you deliver services to the market. That's quite amazing. Sanjay, I've often heard you use this phrase, modernize to monetize. From your vast experience with this kind of process, can you provide some tips which are important in order to make this kind of transformation a success?
Yeah, certainly. So I use modernization and monetization to go hand in hand. The modernization is of the network itself. And as Toru-san was describing, one of the impetuses of getting that done is to increase the feature velocity that the end businesses will use in order to run their own applications. But on top of this, monetizing the services that run in the overlay is also critically important, because service providers, just like Toru-san, have spent a lot of money in terms of modernizing the network. And so the monetization of the services that go on top is critically important. Now, I think one predominant aspect to keep in mind is the speed of development and the speed at which and the cost associated with running these kind of new networks. So previously, the networks used to be fairly monolithic. Everything came all together, including the hardware, all the way up to the layers of the stack. But just as Toru-san was saying, the new model of doing it is to apply cloud-based principles and then use the development methodology that is fast-paced. And for that, you need virtualization. You need to be able to run different services, whether they are VM-based or whether they are container-based, on top of the same stack, and do that all the way from the core to the edge. So it's really a disaggregation that is going on in these networks, which drives the need for a new software stack, which drives the need for a new set of processes, Scrum-based and agile, so that we can have a feature velocity that matches the needs of what businesses want, which are the end enterprises and the end businesses in this space.
Thank you, Sanjay. All these are important strategies and tips. Ultimately, the transformation is meant to empower innovation, and that's really the key. And the innovation community that we're a part of has long been working to leverage technologies like machine learning, AI, and augmented reality in order to create new services and increase new demand for users. Toru-san, how does KDDI plan to engage that same community and build services of your own for the next 5G world? And can you give us some examples of the kinds of platforms and services that you plan to offer, and what you're hearing from your customers regarding their expectations in this new digital world?
We talk to our customers. We have the technology here, including 5G and, as you mentioned, AI, other technologies that are available. And customers are interested and excited how they can use it. But actually, we don't know how it works or what kind of benefit it will give to us. So instead of just talking to customers, we go in one step forward. We have KDDI Digital Gate, which is a co-working space where we can invite customers and do lean and agile development together, do design thinking, and walk through the customer journey together with the enterprise customer, and hopefully develop service together. So in that way, we talk to the customer, employ new technologies, and see how we can actually make new value with those technologies. And with the 5G, we are now established 5G Co-Creation Alliance. There we invite partners who have technology that they can use on top of 5G, and invite customers who want to use that technology and 5G to make their own digital transformation. And of course, as a platform, we have public cloud, VMware-based private cloud, and the cloud will penetrate into the edge. And one example, we work with a customer who have their own factory and they are using AGV, or automatic guided vehicle, and they want to control it in a low cost. They were first looking into local 5G to make that control, but as our talk went on, we realized that public 5G is sufficient, and the Telco Edge Cloud can help them reduce their cost. Instead of having the compute on top of their vehicle, they can put that on the edge, and the edge will be sufficient or have enough low latency to guide their vehicle. So this is actually a very good example that we had with the customer. Use the technology and see what technology will fit. They don't need the super new technology, but the low cost technology that they can employ will be sufficient. So we can't do that by just thinking. We actually want to work together with that technology, with the customer, and that's what we did.
It's inspiring to hear how you invite the customer into your process, and the result is obviously customer-centric services and products that you've developed. So definitely kudos to you guys. Sanjay, VMware works very closely, in fact, and I would say even we partner quite closely with service provider customers to help them bring new enterprise services to the market much more quickly. Aside from enabling them with tools like the Telco Cloud, can you provide some examples of other enterprise services that we've seen significant success with more recently?
Yeah, certainly. So, there's a revolution going on in the service provider space, and Toru-san touched upon how they bring the end customers in to co-innovate. This is extremely key. This could not have happened, even 5-10 years ago, I would say. But now it's made possible by the different software services that are available and a methodology and a set of processes that you can use to bring those customers in. Now, if you look at the set of services at the overlay, so above the network that have been created recently, I'm familiar with the SD-WAN space, software-defined wide area networking, which has now grown into a set of services that goes beyond simply networking. So we bring in services, as an example, work from home. Because of the pandemic, a lot of people are working from home. This is a service that the service provider can roll out, and that has been rolling out very successfully. Then you have an edge intelligence service. So to take an example of if someone's working out of their branch office or working out of the home, but the network doesn't work very well, people who are not very conversant with technology don't really know why that is happening. But if you give them the intelligence and the telemetry, you can locate it down into, well, is it your machine? Is it the router? Is it the network? Or is it just the application? So that's an edge network service. And then a whole set of security services at the application layer so that both the customers can feel confident that they're not going to be broken into, but also service providers like KDDI can feel confident that through a principle of least privilege, you can protect all the conversations that are going on. So there's an entire suite of services that, as Toru-san was pointing out, important to make them multi-tenant, but also important for them to be multi-user and multi-service that can be rolled out by service providers for these end businesses.
Many of the services you just mentioned point to the importance of agility that's needed at the edge. Bringing this massive capability in order to fulfill 5G vision at the edge is not an easy feat, for certain. Toru-san, speaking specifically to the transformation that's happening at the edge, can you speak to the strategy that KDDI is employing to ensure that the edge was fully empowered to enable these value-added services that you're expecting to create and deliver?
Sure. We started providing AWS Wavelengths, which is an edge compute service that we provide together with AWS. Our concept here is just provide the edge to the customers. Let the customer use it, experience it, and find out how they can make the best out of the edge compute. And why we partner with AWS is that AWS Cloud is most used public cloud in the world. So if the look and feel is the same when they are starting using edge, they don't have to start learning how to use the edge, but they just jump on it and try it out. So that's why we started working with AWS. But at the same time, we are trying to stimulate the market by showing how edge compute can be used. So we are employing machine learning, AI, or augmented reality, virtual reality at the edge. And what we did is provide free viewing soccer application where you can just pinch the soccer game on the smartphone and see from whatever viewpoint you want to see. That was one application we provided. Another thing was virtual human. A virtual human can guide you through places, and that was provided. The compute was done by the edge, and a virtual human is guiding you through. This is AR application. And last thing is virtual Shibuya. Shibuya is a city or town inside Tokyo where young people come and enjoy. And you have a virtual Shibuya in your smartphone. You can see augmented reality while walking through Shibuya. And we also did Halloween events through that. So that kind of things, I think it'll stimulate the developer's mind and see like, oh, you can do this kind of thing, then why don't we develop this kind of application? So that's what we are doing.
It's definitely breaking new ground and drawing new enthusiasm around the network. I think it's fantastic. Sanjay, on that point, KDDI is clearly thinking beyond connectivity. How do you see service providers like KDDI leveraging the edge in order to reinvent their relationship with the market?
Yeah, look at this virtual Shibuya. These are fascinating use cases. And right now, it's really a hunt for use cases. Connectivity, of course, is an included part of it. And the connectivity layer itself is changing and evolving. Previously, it's just that the connectivity layer didn't quite know what the applications wanted. But now with 5G, there's the promise of the programmability of the network itself. So just one example is through slicing, where the application can ask for a type of connection, and that connection may be, you need hundreds of thousands of links that you need to set up for sensors, or it can be a high bandwidth, low latency, as you might need for things like video. So really what the conversation that is going on in terms of these new applications and new use cases that are coming up is that the possibilities are endless. And it's not just about looking at the underlay as being one dumb network, but it can do a lot more for you. And when you do that, then looking at the developer ecosystem, which is what Toru-san was talking about, and that developer ecosystem is going to be making these new apps. They range everything from low bandwidth but very high velocity or very high volume because of sensors that are going into the network, to very high bandwidth apps where you cannot afford to send the data all the way back into the backend cloud, and you have to actually look at it just simply at the edge because you want to do video recognition. So that entire gamut between them is what's going to happen in the new class of applications coming in. And instead of either service providers like KDDI or VMware trying to invent them, we are giving the tools and we're giving the mechanisms, we're giving the APIs, we're giving the developer community all the tools that they need. And then when they develop these, it's like they hand us a flashlight, and that flashlight illuminates the path ahead for us. And then we build these into a product that then will be used, and we're going to get a hockey stick, I'm convinced, of when 5G is going to take off.
Well, speaking from a VMware perspective, as an industry innovator, it's an honor to be a part of such a transformation and to see how this landscape is actually changing. But as a 5G user, it's really beyond exciting to hear how we live, work, and play is all changing, right? Everything you guys have been talking about is going to effectively, turn what we know on its head and make our world a lot more exciting. Now, that makes me think of my final question, which I'd like to ask both of you. Toru-san, I am sure, like me, that your team is excited to create this new vision for a 5G world. Can you highlight some of the capabilities that KDDI is looking to enable and the services you're looking to innovate on in the future?
5G now is driving change on low latency, high bandwidth, etc., as Sanjay mentioned. And one thing we provided was AWS Wavelength. So this was one service we started to deliver to actually maximize the strength of 5G. But as I mentioned 5G, it's actually a starting point of 5G. This is non-standalone 5G, which means it uses some capability of 4G network. And what we see in the future is we're going to start standalone 5G. This is a 5G network that is a standalone service. And when we have this, network slicing will be available, which means you can occupy the bandwidth within 5G and also in the landline. That's what we are trying to do. So answering your question, that's one feature we plan to provide. The implication here is not just about you can occupy a part of the network, but it's more that the network capability is merging into cloud or compute. So network slicing is one example. It's a merger of networking and computing. And with edge compute and network function virtualization, we envision that the network will be a network/compute service available anywhere. And when I say that, I remember about the early 2000s when IPv6 was being deployed. People were talking about ubiquitous computing, so computing everywhere. But actually, it's not just computing that you need. You need computing plus network and get connected anywhere. That was a concept. But with 5G and this edge compute, I see this actually happening. And that's what I'm really excited about.
I am too. Sanjay, I feel like our industry is changing on a nearly daily basis. What kind of priorities are you hearing out on the street, and what does it mean for the way that VMware works with our service provider customers?
Yeah, I think if you look at applications that have been created so far, they started off, of course, in the private data center, and then, they moved to the public cloud. VMware, of course, has our offering in the public cloud providers so that, application providers and customers don't have to change their stack. But now it's time for that next revolution that is happening, as we've been chatting about, which is applications that are not just moving to the edge, but applications that will be natively born at the edge. And the difference between the applications before and these new ones is the level of scale, because the edge requires thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes millions of points at which the application will be located. And as Toru-san was saying, it's not just about the compute. Whenever you talk about large-scale distribution, physical distribution, the network has to come along with it, because the network is what connects it all together. So the difference is actually fairly dramatic. The difference is when you get the underlay, the overlay services, and edge compute all to work together. And we believe that a software stack, kind of like the one that we have with our telco cloud platform, is going to enable service providers like KDDI and others to innovate and then eventually to serve the needs of businesses everywhere. And these new services that we're talking about today, I think we're just simply scratching the surface. With the likes of network slicing, which is just one facility that you can get from 5G, this is going to be a revolutionary change. I couldn't be more excited. I mean, usually people say networking is not a very exciting space, but I couldn't be more excited about what's going on in the networking space. Looking forward just, a year or so, or even, a couple of years out, I think there's going to be massive changes in our industry.
Well, Toru-san and Sanjay, I want to thank you both for joining us today on Tying Telco Together. It's been a fascinating discussion, and we're honored to have you both on today, and we hope to have you back again soon. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Toru-san, for the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen, Sanjay.